Hi, my name is Molly Tyler, and for your information, I'm a dog. I've been a member of the Tyler Pack now for 13 years. Like any other journey, this journey has been wrought with ups and downs. But for me, raising Riley was the darkest period of my life. Before I get into telling you about this dark period, I will tell you about my idyllic life before Riley. I was found at the Humane Society by my pack leaders, Susan and Steve Tyler. I was given to their son Jack as a birthday present, spending my early years as a companion to a sweet little human boy from ages 12 to 18 was any dog's dream. It was like being in a warm cocoon of love and affection without a worry. Then Jack went off to college, and I was left with Steve and Susan, which was okay, despite a few minor adjustments. Steve was easy to train. That guy will give you about anything you want if you just bat an eye at him. Susan is another story, however, tough as nails. The other contender in the home was Maggie, my predecessor. Maggie was like a sweet and dear older sister to me. Never an unkind growl, only the cajoling kind of growl. I imagined that someday I would be a warm, loving figure to a younger dog, with Maggie by my side to coach me. But that dream was not meant to be. Maggie passed away when I was 6 years old. So Jack came home for a visit from college. One day during his visit, he took some girl to the Humane Society to look at dogs, and they discovered a little black and white puppy named Riley. They thought she was adorable. Jack even said she was a sugar dog, a reference to Sugar, the legendary first Tyler family dog who had a black and white coat as well. Man, I spent half of my life hearing how wonderful Sugar was. I mean, really, no one is that perfect. As a dog, I try not to carry resentments, but the Sugar issue is really a trigger for me. Jack noticed that Riley was energetic and playful. What Jack did not notice was that she was caged alone, which indicated that she was not suitable to be around other dogs. She was also housed in a restricted area, as if there might be radioactive material in there somewhere. Nobody noticed that Riley was a lunatic. She jumped up and down continuously. It was like she was riding a souped-up electric-powered pogo stick. I hear that Sugar was energetic as a puppy as well. But when she was taken outside to play, she calmed down like a normal dog, and she attended to things like sweet-smelling flowers or other creatures. But, as we all found out later, Riley was wired very differently. It seems like she was in her own world, a world of aggression and disregard for the simplest rules. I worried that she was a sociopath, which is an unusual diagnosis for a dog, but in this case, it seemed to apply. By the way, Steve used to be a social worker, and his psychobabble and diagnosing habit rubbed off on me. Sorry. Well, Jack took Steve to the Humane Society to check out Riley. She's a lot like Sugar, Steve told Jack. Yeah. Jack and Steve told Susan about Riley and suggested that she simply go look at her at the Humane Society. They knew that Susan could not resist the smell of puppy breath or the soft feel of puppy fur. They didn't have to ask her to adopt the dog. It was game over once she got within 10 feet of Riley. Unfortunately, Jack and Steve were right about Susan's weakness for puppies. Susan, no, all of us, were drawn into the trap of owning a monster. Well, they brought Riley home, unsuspecting what was to come. Everyone knows puppies are a lot of work, but Riley was in extreme need of training. To be fair, she was pretty easily house-trained, but she had a rampant disregard for property and seemed motivated to destroy all types of things. We all noticed that Riley had a compulsive need to bite ankles and feet. Steve would say, "She must have a herding instinct." That's ridiculous. She just wanted to hurt people, and she was so short that the only spots she could reach were ankles and feet. One thing I noticed that the humans missed: Riley did not wag her tail when we got her at age 3 months. Most dogs are wagging within a few days of birth. Tail wagging is a dog's way to let other dogs know their mood and their intentions. The absence of wagging was further evidence that something was amiss with Riley. We soon noticed that objects in the house were being systematically destroyed. One of Riley's first projects was stripping the leather off of a couch. The couch was soon taped up with red duct tape. Even as a dog, I found this kind of trashy. Riley chewed up Steve's cell phone cover, which he never replaced due to his pervasive sense of pessimism and doom during this time. Steve estimated that Riley destroyed about $3,000 worth of stuff around the house. Man, that could have bought us a ton of milk bones. Consequently, the house turned into what looked like a high-security prison. Each room had a gate to limit Riley's movements in the house. This made moving around the house complicated. I did enjoy being separated from Riley for much of the day, however. When we were together, it was an unending stream of puppy attacks, mostly feet biting. As you know, some puppies need to sleep in a crate for a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. But Riley slept in a crate for months. At bedtime, there was a routine battle to get Riley into the crate. Then she would bounce around in it, knocking it noisily against the wall. The scene could have been taken from The Exorcist, minus the green vomit. It kind of shook us up right before sleep time, which led to nightmares for the 3 sane ones sharing the room with Riley. Going for walks was a psychedelic experience, as Steve likes to say. Riley would forcefully and inexorably pull on the leash. Susan became concerned that Riley might damage her trachea, so they got her a gentle leader, which is a strap wrapped around her snout to avoid stressing the trachea. This was planned to be a temporary arrangement. However, Riley pulls forcefully on the gentle leader too, so it looks like she will never get back to using a regular collar. She always makes things so difficult for herself. Riley's behavior was so bad that Steve and Susan took her for dog training at a smart pet store. I heard Susan and Steve talk about this a lot. Now the trainer, Ernie, was terrible, but that was irrelevant. The other dogs seemed to do okay despite Ernie. The only thing Riley learned in her formal education was how to shake hands. That's it. Big deal. This problem with Riley affected not just Susan, Steve, and me. It also affected our sweet coonhound cousin, Daisy Tyler, who lives in Elyria, Ohio. Daisy not only heard about Riley's mania, but she witnessed it firsthand when Daisy visited. She could hardly bear to hear of Riley's insane and undog-like behavior. In despair, she frequently howled and worried about Riley. It was terrible. Susan and Steve speculated about what to do with Riley. Dog training school was no help. The conventional methods used with previous dogs were useless. One evening, Steve brought up the incomprehensible. He suggested that Riley be returned to the Humane Society, but Susan stood strong. "I think someday Riley is going to be a great dog," she said. Steve respected Susan's opinions, but he was still pessimistic. I was shocked to hear the return word come out of Steve's mouth. As a former tenant of the Humane Society, I couldn't allow this to happen. I decided that I had to take over the training. Susan and Steve are decent people, but they don't understand dogs. Pups like this need constant reminders of what is expected and what is intolerable. I began closely observing Riley and giving her feedback when she misbehaved. That's a polite way of saying I humped and pinned her regularly. She seemed to enjoy this moment of domination, as if she felt more like a real dog and not some phony miniature human being. Over a 4-month period, I was on that mutt on a regular basis. Twice I pinned her against a couch, holding her by the throat with my teeth, which sent her a very clear message. And when I wasn't on her, I was benignly neglecting her, to use one of Steve's phrases. And lo and behold, when she turned 1 year old, she was as docile as a piece of cherry pie. Time has passed. Our home and pack are at peace again. At the dog park recently, some reckless mutt came running toward Riley, and I automatically came to her aid and diverted the other dog. I thought about how things have changed in my growing attachment to Riley. I'm glad we didn't give up on her. She's a happy, tail-wagging dog now. It's been a long road, but great things are worth waiting for.